This episode of After the Table is brought to you by Humble Bundle. Whether you're adding more resources to your GMing library, picking up a new skill, or adding games to your rotation, Humble Bundle has you covered with bundles of goodies ready to download. Plus, each bundle helps out a charity, so you're getting nerdy stuff and being a good person at the same time. You'll always be surprised with what they have. I got all my BTM books from Humble Bundle, and trust me, I am quite satisfied with all the new powers I can give my character Ashley. Use my affiliate link and help out the podcast. Link is in the show notes. Hello, and good morning, and welcome back to the table to people who like TTRPGs, making sure people are taken care of, and people who say fuck ICE, because fuck ICE. And also free Palestine, Congo, and Sudan. And no one is illegal on stolen ground because, yeah, I thought we'd get that out there because just in case you're in the TTRPG space and you're listening to this and you don't agree to any of those, don't listen. I don't need you to listen. You can go fuck yourself right off the top. Y'all know how much I love cussing. But speaking of people who like to raise money for these great causes and to raise voices in these scenes, this week we are joined by creator of TTRPGs, coordinator of some of the biggest game jams to help great causes, and my favorite way to wake up in the morning whenever I see their TikToks. Welcome to the table, Jess, aka Just the Human. Hello, hello.
Hello and howdy. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, howdy. I'm a Texan, so howdy. You're speaking my native. Okay, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
But even though it's not morning, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. It's funny that you're starting with that. A couple years ago when I was at PAX U, people would come up to me and it'd be, like 3 p.m. and they'd be like, "Good morning, Jess." And I was like, fuck, I'm supposed to say that to you. That's not the other way around. Gosh darn.
So how did that get started? How did the good morning to those kind of content that you make get started?
Back when Twitter was not the worst place on the planet / internet, I did a good morning to these people and these people only. I don't know what it was. It was probably like the gays and the theys. And people really liked it. And so the next day I was like, what if I do that again? And then I just kept doing that. And it's been, I think it was 2 years in November. Like, I've been doing it every single day. And, sometimes I'm like, oh, God, okay, nothing's coming in. We've really got to get to work because people look forward to those. So, yeah, that's how it got started. It brings people joy. It brings me a little bit of joy and a little bit of anxiety in the morning to get my socials out because I know that people enjoy it.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe it would be me. I'd be, banking a bunch of them and just be like, all right, these are... But I feel like that's the social media manager in me, and I'm just like, I have thoughts right now. I might not have these same thoughts later.
Well, at first I didn't. It took me a good over a year to start thinking ahead. Sometimes if I have a good one, I'll write it down. I just have a huge note list, but it shrinks. And this month has not been a good month for creativity with the world that we're living in, unfortunately. So the drafts are 0 and we're just coming up with it off the dome. And that's okay, because maybe next month will be better.
Yeah.
Next month has to be better.
It has to be better. Yeah. Gosh. Yeah, my brain... I am not one of those people that keeps notes apps. I'm really bad about doing that. Sometimes I have them. I have them for magic decks that I'm building because I'm trying to build a deck in every color combo. But that's about it. Or if I'm trying to save something really quick. But I've never been a notes app person, mostly because I'll show my phone. My folders, well, you can't see it, but everything's buried in a folder, so there's not pages and I'm not losing it. So I'm like, oh, I don't know where my notes app is at, so I have to like search for it. I'm like, what folder is that in? So I think that's the reason why I don't do notes apps. That, and I don't have a Mac anymore. So there's not that transferability. So I'm like using Google Docs, or I'm sticky note, or I have like pen and paper writing my notes. Have you found, I mean, you do so much different content on top of the Good Morning stuff. Do you kind of utilize your notes and you're like, all right, these are the things that I need to get done? And
I utilize junk mail a lot. I'm gonna be super honest. I use junk mail. I use, we waste a lot of paper at my work. And so instead of tossing it into the recycling bin, I'll cut it in half. I'll put, not like a paper clip, but you know, like the bigger clips that can hold a lot of paper. I'll put one of those on, and that becomes like my notepad, because it makes me feel a little bit better about the waste that we're creating for no reason. Honestly, just like anything that is around, if I like have the urge to like physically write it down. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, that's amazing. Yeah, I work from home. I work for myself, so I don't have a recycling bin with. I do have junk mail though, and I do utilize a lot of junk mail, and like just I for some reason the VA likes to do 20 different notifications. So I get a notification via paper, via text, via email, and I'm like, why? So I'm literally writing on things that I don't need anymore, and I'm like, well, this has my name on it and my address, and I learned so long ago that I don't necessarily want people to know those things. So it's like, okay, let me shred this or whatever. But for those who don't know who you are, I guess, and I, even though I introduced you, tell the people who you are, and kind of some things that you are into for TTRPGs.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hello, friends. My name is Jess. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and you can find me all over the internet, in most places at Just the Human, but it's Jess with just one S. I am known for my good mornings. I'm also known for my charity work that I do in the tabletop space. Since 2021, I've raised around $450,000 through TTRPG charity streams, charity bundles on Itch.io and Tiltify, different raffles, auctions, just anything that I can kind of integrate charity work and TTRPGs, hence TTRPGs, which is something that I've been doing for almost 2 years now. I guess beforehand I was still organizing and fundraising, but with charity TTRPGs it became a little bit more intentional. I lift weights and sometimes post about that. I like anime and I really like Heated Rivalry. Those are kind of the things that are consuming me at the moment.
I have not started Heated Rivalry yet, and
I think we actually need to end this interview right now.
So we're gonna pause. We'll be back in 2 days. We're gonna start again, and there we go. Yeah, it's. I don't know. I think because it started while I was doing ramp up for the podcast, that I'm more focused on that than a TV show, and I apologize.
It's okay. I forgive you.
I apologize. You can take my gay card. It's okay, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. You can take it. I want it back eventually. I am a drag queen. I have to have it to get into the gay club. All right. They check. There's, retinal scans and everything. Somebody's going to listen to that and they're going to think that's real. and honestly, you should. But so what's your origin stories with TTRPGs? How did you get into playing?
Yeah, so it's funny because I always tell two stories. The first time that I had the opportunity to play and the first time that I actually played. I was in middle school. It was probably seventh or eighth grade, and I was in my homeroom. And two boys, Dan and Nick, were like huddled over their desk, and they were like giggling. And I walk up and I say, "Dan, Nick, what are you guys doing?" And they say, "Oh, Jess, we're playing D&D. You can be an elf. Do you want to play?" And I go, "No, I don't." And I walk away. And I'm both frustrated with myself and not frustrated at the same time, because it was years ago and it would have been a different edition of D&D, and I probably would have hated it because I'm very non-combat focused. I've lost one character and I was depressed for a week. So I just don't think that would have been okay for me at that time. So fast forward, gosh, a lot of years. It's 2019, and my partner and I are loitering around Target when we still supported Target. And we would always go to the game section. And I kept seeing the D&D starter kit, and I was like, that would be fun, right? What if we played some D&D, babe? And he was like, okay, but like, neither of us know how to play. Like, we need someone to teach us. And so I literally pestered everyone I knew at the time. And Jackie, one of my rugby teammates, said, "I'll be the dungeon master. I've played Pathfinder before. I've never DM'd. So it's not going to be, squeaky clean exactly how it should be, but I'll still do it." And so we decided on our rugby camping trip that we would do it. We had like 10 folks going up to Lake Tahoe for the July 4 weekend, and we like literally played D&D all weekend. It was Minds of Phandelver. We had one set of dice that we shared. We had no access to internet. Jackie forgot to print off character sheets, so we like did art time where we like drew all of our character sheets out. I remember my character Jadriel, I put like a picture of her in the middle and then like did my character sheet around it. Like, it was perfect. It was so much fun. We played around the campfire, which was really hard to see our roles, but it didn't matter because we didn't know what was happening anyway. But it was so nice, like being out in the wilderness with like a river sound in the background and campfire sound, and it just literally could not have gone better than that. So that was my kind of origin into it. And then 2 weeks later, I tore my ACL playing rugby and literally couldn't do anything for quite some time because my first surgeon messed up the surgery and I had to have it done again. And so I just threw myself into D&D. And it was really nice. I learned about, like D&D Twitter shortly after, and I was like, I see a hyperfixation coming on. And here we are.
And there you go. Yeah, I started by pestering somebody that I was in a Discord with. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I play D&D." I'm like, "Really?" Yeah. And guess what? We played Minds of Delver as well as the starting one, and we got to level 5. And then with that same character, a bunch of us, the same group with the same DM, went and did Dungeon the Mad Mage, and we all got to level 20. So we went from like level 1 to level 20 with the same characters.
What's it like being God's favorite?
And I'm still in love with that character. I'm trying to write a novel about her. I have so much art made for her. Yeah, she's the best, honestly. Yeah, I don't know how it feels. I don't think that's real. I think because I can't play her 20 plus.
Why not?
You know what? You're right. Maybe I need to strong arm somebody to run a level 20 plus campaign. Mm-hmm. And I'll be like, "Can I bring my cleric rogue? She's level 20. Just, please. She's died twice.
Please,
like,
sir, may I have some more?
Please, I love her. It's been so long. A novel can only do so much." But so speaking of D&D, Twitter, that's how I found out about actual play stuff as well. On top of like Critical Role. How did you get started in the actual play space?
Um, it's funny enough, I've watched one episode of Critical Role and I decided that was not for me. I did, however, start watching some of my friends that I was making in the space, and I was like, this seems kind of cool. I could probably do that. And some of my friends invited me to tables that they were playing in, and I was like, huh, this is kind of cool. I could do this more often. And then when I saw my first D&D charity stream, I was like, what? You can do that? I was starting to get into Twitch streaming at the time. I had never done a Twitch charity stream or anything like that before. And so it was truly a lot of new doors being opened all at the same time when I started getting into this. And so in my personal life, I am a professional fundraiser. That's what I do for my pants job. And so I like fundraising so much that I do it in my free time too. And so when I learned that you could do, at the time, D&D was the only TTRPG that I knew. So when I learned that you could do D&D charity streams, I was like, holy shit, my two things that are like, I'm very passionate about, I can do that. So again, I pestered a couple folks into seeing who would help me do my first D&D charity stream. And a pal that I met through D&D Twitter stepped up and said she would help me. And that was for my birthday in 2021. We raised like $525, which is a weird thing to remember, but like, I think because that was my first one, I'm always going to remember. We raised that for March of Dimes, and I thought to myself, this is really cool, and I would like to become more involved. I did a handful more that year, but it wasn't until 2022 when I started doing them more frequently. I think July of 2022 is when reproductive rights were under attack in the United States. And so, I did a weekend-long TTRPG charity stream series. I think there were 5 or 6 games that I hosted for National Abortion Federation, and we raised just under $1,700. And I said, I'm doing this often. I think 2 months after that, I started doing at least one TTRPG charity stream every single month. I think I've missed one because at the last minute a game had to get canceled because the GM wasn't available or something happened. But I've done it every single month, and it brings me a lot of joy. I'm able to play a lot of different systems, and I'm also able to play with a lot of cool people in the space.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I mean, what's the most difficult part of doing these streams, of putting them together? Because on top of that, you're doing all the production on top of playing or not playing or, whatever.
Yeah, I think if you were to ask me throughout the years, my answer would change because production used to be the hardest thing for me. I don't have a technical background in that. I mean, a lot of Twitch streamers don't, but OBS was very overwhelming for me to learn. I remember struggling with that a lot, but I've gotten tools to help me over the years, and as you go on, things get easier. For a while, I probably would have said that the overlays were the most difficult part. I hate looking back at my old overlays because they were so bad. They were so bad, but also I was getting it done. I was getting out there and I was doing the thing, and so that's what I like to focus on. Probably for a while, I would have told you that just making the ask for people to want to be on the games and trying to get them scheduled was the hardest part. But yeah, I don't know if there's any one thing right now that sticks out as the hardest part. To make it easier for myself, I have a list of people. This sounds so weird and creepy, and I hate every time I say it, but like I make like a little Excel sheet of like people whose performances I've seen that I would like to play with and invite to be on one of the TTRPG charity streams. I have kind of a template down for all of my layouts. I have a template down for all of my promo images that I make. I literally have like copy and paste things for when I'm getting a group together on Discord of here are all of the things you need to know coming up. I have a session 0 checklist, so I make sure that I hit everything before handing it over to the GM of the day, because that's one thing that I don't do. I do everything except for be the game master, because I feel like that would be way too overwhelming to try to be running the game, be running the charity aspect, watching the chat, making sure the production is happening. So yeah, I don't remember what the original question was. I think I talked so long that I forgot the plot, but here we are.
It happens. It happens. As somebody who's also done charity streams, but also has to do the production part as well, I wish I didn't. Because it's always on my stream and I'm just like, well, I'm hosting it, so I gotta do it. I'm not giving anybody else my key. I wouldn't mind if somebody took over GMing some of the charity things. I'll host it. I don't mind. But yeah, oh my gosh. It's so graphics. I'm also somebody who needs templates, and I'm also somebody who has a long list of people who I want to contact. Trust me, for the podcast, there is an Excel spreadsheet, and there are different tabs. I'm like, people I want as guests, my past guests, so I know who I can contact again if I ever want them back on the podcast. And then I have one for the current season and like how things line up, and I have little check boxes of like, I made the YouTube thumbnail, I edited it, they've been booked, the link's been sent out. I think it's one of those things, like, I have to have those systems in place or I'll forget something and I'll be like scrambling to make sure it's happened, because most of the time it's just me. It's just me. I wish I had an assistant. I can't afford one.
I feel that. I feel that within my bones. I don't know. I try to like even schedule things out like months in advance. When I was first starting, it would be January and I would be planning February, and then it would be February and then I was planning March. And now I try to like think of, what does my whole year look like? Can we do this in like 3 to 4 month blocks, so that future Jess is going to be like, oh, past Jess, thank you so much for taking care of this for me. I love you so much, because it was really hard at the beginning when I was literally just burning and churning and constantly trying to keep going forward instead of preparing myself, knowing that it was something that I've committed to. Like, I don't have an end date on when I'm gonna stop doing TTRPG charity streams. So like, I know, okay, we've got to start reaching out. I'm doing March stuff right now. Very soon, probably in the next week or so, I'm gonna start reaching out for April stuff, and it's just gonna keep on happening.
I mean, yeah, and that's the best way to do it, because it's one of those things, like, you've got to, especially if you're a one-person team, you're like, I gotta fix myself and make sure everything's good in place so I'm not burning out and I'm not going like, I don't want to do this anymore, because it's something that you're passionate about.
Exactly. When it starts feeling like a chore or like work, I will probably step back and say, let's reevaluate. Maybe I need to have a skip month, or maybe we do every other month. But right now, it doesn't feel like a chore. In fact, it brings me a lot of joy, and sometimes that joy is very, very needed. So,
yeah. Well, speaking of the charity streams that you do, you also put on these game jams, of getting a bunch of game designers and other individuals in the other parts of the creative TTRPG space to kind of donate their items so people can buy them to benefit these charities. how did that come together, and what does that look like on the back end?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first charity bundle happened in, was it last year or was it the year before? I think it was 2024. It was. I don't know. Don't quote me. I've been doing charity bundles for a while. Who knows the exact dates when it started? It doesn't matter. But all of that to say, I wanted to start putting them together, but I was also very nervous from a tax implication kind of standpoint, because if I were to raise hundreds of $1,000s, there was no way that I was going to be able to afford being able to pay the taxes on that. So I reached out to Rue Dickey to have a conversation about that, and he was super gracious and so helpful, and I honestly wouldn't be able to do this without Rue's help, so shout out to them for their help. But Rue let me know that when you do a big charity bundle like that, if you're able to onboard the charity, and this was before you had to have them onboarded, but basically you onboard the charity, they put in their tax information, and payments go directly to them. So it doesn't affect you, it doesn't affect your taxes, which is a really good thing, because as someone who works, in fundraising for my pants job, and also like my fun internet self, you never want to be the middleman between getting money to a charity. That's just such bad practice, whether you're doing it professionally or whether you're doing it for fun, because there's a whole piece of trust, and if someone wanted to write that on their taxes, they can't do that because they gave the money to you and not the charity. And so having the money go directly from people to the organization with an Itch.io charity bundle is just chef's kiss. So after talking to Rue and getting that figured out, I started working on TTRPGs for Palestine. And that, it was in 2024, for sure, 100%. It's all coming back to me. And we raised about $200,000 for medical aid for Palestinians. And it was really just wonderful. I mean, it was an amazing experience having the TTRPG community come together on such a large scale to make such a big impact for that organization and to help Palestine, who still needs support, as Shelly mentioned at the beginning of this episode. So it was really, really cool to be able to kind of help folks find this outlet, because I know something that I oftentimes feel is like a feeling of helplessness, like I'm just one person, what realistically can I do to help in this situation? And there's always something that every single one of us can do at any given point. It's just a matter of whether you're willing to take the steps needed. And so that was a really beautiful way to get my toes dipped into Itch.io charity bundles. I've done a couple for Dot's RPG project, where we helped them fund Braille RPG dice. The first was for 7 sets that can be used for like Dungeons and Dragons, and just other games that use the 7 set. But then we also know that there are games that don't need all 7. In fact, they need D10s because it's Vampire the Masquerade, or they need D6s because it's Yahtzee. Visually impaired and blind folks deserve access to dice that they can read themselves, just as much as sighted people. And so that was really cool to be a part of. I've done one for, it was Races and Immigrant Defender Law Center, which is an LA-based immigrants' rights organization. Last year in the summer, when ICE was terrorizing people in the Los Angeles area. And so it's just a really wonderful way to be able to give back to the community at large, and also give the community at large a way to give back. And so I'm really thankful for, again, Rue helping me out with that, because I would never, ever have tried to do that because it would put me into financial ruin.
Yeah, as a daughter of a bookkeeper who does taxes, yeah, anytime somebody's like, I have a question about businesses or charities, I'm like, you need an accountant, my friend. Please go talk to an accountant before you do anything that you might regret, and you'll have to you have to disclose to the government. Please. You don't know. But for those who don't know, who is Rue? What is kind of their role and what do they do?
Yeah, so Rue, you might hear some clicking. I'm so sorry. I don't want to give the wrong info. They go by Ilana Knight on Blue Sky and other socials, but they run the TTRPGs for trans rights. Zura's done it for, gosh, I want to say this is going to be their 4th or 5th year, and they've also raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they're really amazing. I really respect them as a creator, and they do just really awesome work. So make sure you check those out too. I think Z usually does it right around, very soon after this podcast episode has been put onto the internet. They'll probably actually be putting together the game jam to collect the games, because I know the bundle usually launches around Trans Day of Remembrance. So
love that. So for those who are interested in wanting to put on one shots or game jams themselves, what does the back end look like? What do without going into full business things, but what are some things people should be aware of before getting into wanting to do things like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone's looking for a walkthrough of all of the things, I do actually have some how-to videos on my YouTube. And so one is how to do a TTRPG charity stream. I have a walkthrough of how to host an Itch.io charity bundle with all of the things that I learned, because, whoo boy, it was rough getting it started. And then I even have one about how to use Tiltify. Tiltify is my preferred fundraising platform because, again, I put the link out there. People donate via that link. I don't see any of that money. It goes straight to the organization, which is really nice. I've actually been on a team of a nonprofit that has used Tiltify, and so I've even been able to see the money get transferred over to know that that's how it works. And so I know that there are other platforms, like Twitch has their own integrated platform. I've used it a little bit. I personally like other platforms better, but I always tell people, try them out until you find the one that works best for you and stick with that one, because the more you use it, the more familiar you're going to be, the more templatized you're going to be able to make it for yourself. So that's my first soapbox about that, I guess. My second is to just fucking start. Don't wait because you want to be perfect at being able to run your streams. You heard me earlier talk about how shitty of layouts they used to be. They were bad. They were really bad, but if you don't start, you're never going to be able to see the growth from the shittiness to the, I wouldn't say perfection. My streams are not perfection, but they're a lot better than they were 4 or 5 years ago. I would also say, don't get caught up on how much money you raise. This is a big soapbox of mine. Because I work in the nonprofit sector, I get to see firsthand how much impact you can do just by talking about a nonprofit. Marketing is so expensive right now. Marketing is always expensive, and I feel like it's just going to keep getting more pricey. And so the more you're talking about the organization and nonprofit, the more free marketing they're going to get. You might also be connecting someone to a resource that they didn't know existed. For example, If you're talking about a cancer organization that has free wig shops, someone watching your stream might not know that exists, and then they get connected to that and they get to utilize that free resource, whereas had you not talked about it, they wouldn't have known. You might inspire someone to create their own TTRPG charity stream just because you were doing one. I know that TTRPG gifts, Jorge was a big inspiration of mine. Scry Society, who doesn't do them now, but used to do a lot of TTRPG charity streams monthly, they were big inspirations of mine because I was like, if they can do it, so can I. And so I started. And so it all boils back to just do it, but know that you're going to have community support. Know that you can ask for help if you need it. There are so many people who want to give back, but need someone to be the person that starts it. So that could be you. So I hope it is you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, just do it. Like, I've raised money for different charities. I'm part of a stream team that's specifically a charity stream team, and it's one of those things. It's like, I love getting people together to be like, all right, we're gonna raise money together, let's do this. Like, this past December, a bunch of us with my brain just did the thing where it doesn't want to remember anything. We did 12 days of tabletop where we played TTRPGs, board games, magic.
Was it for Fisher House?
It was for Fisher House. Yeah, Fisher House Foundation. Love Fisher House. That's the stream team I'm part of. And it's a great organization that I think a lot of people don't realize is there. Especially if you're not in the veteran space. It's one of those things. It's like the same with like Wounded Warrior Project, or a big one that I'm really a proponent of is NVLS, which is the National Veterans Legal Services Program, NVLSP. I interned for them years ago, and I found out that they help with getting your disability and suing the government, so you're like covered for everything. So I'm all for that. I'm all for suing the government. Sometimes it's just like, hey, you fucked me up, brother. Like, let's make this right. So yeah, a lot of people don't realize that, and they get taken advantage of. So I'm all for making sure people don't get gate kept out of resources they could use. So yeah, charity is a big thing for that. Unfortunately, the United States government doesn't take care of its people. And,
what do you mean?
and it's reliant on charity, and it's been like that for a while. There's, as a historian, I've seen the documentation of just the fact that the United States government has to rely, or the United States people have to rely on private citizens instead of their government to take care of them. So if only things could change. But hey,
we're out here and we're starting our TTRPG charity streams because we're stepping up. That's
exactly. And you can choose whatever charity you want to. So if there's a charity that is near and dear to your heart, whether it's like, I say go, for those who don't know where to start and they're like, oh, I want to go with one of the big ones, go with a local one. Go with like your local soup kitchen or your local women's shelter, or go small, go local. That way, you know where it's going to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what makes great stories to tell in this space for charity streams, but also just like in general for TTRPGs? What makes great stories, in your opinion?
I do not like telling sad stories for TTRPG charity streams. It can work, But I think that the world is a fucked up place enough that when we are trying to raise funds for a cause that is in dire need of support, whether it's trans rights, whether it's for Palestine, whether it's for Minnesota organizations right now, I don't like it to be sad. I like it to be upbeat and fun, because it's, for just 3 hours we can shut off, we can raise some money for an incredible cause, and we can have a fun time that we might not necessarily be having in our real life. That's just for me, though. I know a lot of folks that are able to tell sad stories when they do TTRPG charity streams, and that is kick ass. Gosh, what makes...
I'm looking straight at you, Edward Spence, working with WWP, telling sad ass stories, raising money. Looking at you, making me cry at my desk, asshole.
I think what makes good stories as a whole is a connected group. I think that people who have the vibe together can make literally the silliest story turn out to be just so great and rich because of the connections that they have together. I think that you can really tell if a group isn't meshing. And maybe it's the pauses, or maybe it's the story that they tell together. Just, they don't, I don't know, one person is using like a Lego brick and someone else is like using a triangle brick. I don't know. It just, you can tell when tables aren't meshing, whether that's in a one shot or in an ongoing story. And I truly think that table compatibility is so incredibly important. So yeah, I think just people meshing.
How do you get that table compatibility for your games? How do you establish that?
So I handpick all of the tables that I put together. I'll put out like calls for casting very rarely, and it's typically me actually, it calls for GMs when I'm doing like a stream series. I typically try to do one around my birthday in April. I typically try to do one in October because Halloween is my favorite holiday besides my birthday. And so I really just try to pick people that I think have similar play styles together. And then I have a non-negotiable of, we are going to get together to do a session 0. I think there have been so few games where we haven't spent an hour, and that's because the times did not align, but we still did a text-based one where we all looked at the same document and we were kind of all around the same time asking questions. But you can tell when people don't mesh right away in a session 0. And so then I think it's really important to have follow-up questions to make the characters be very meshed and have a rich history and backstory together. Because I think you can fix people not meshing right away. Not every personality is going to mesh, but if you can integrate the characters so the awkwardness of a starting adventure doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I guess that's my answer to that question.
What kind of tools are you using whenever you're establishing these tables?
Do you like
safety tools?
Okay.
Like safety tools wise, or like even I don't know if you utilize some sort of like round robin game to kind of just like loosen everybody up, or...
So I have a lines and veil sheet that I have created that has on the first sheet, it is, if someone clicks something as a line, it shows up for everyone. There are spaces for people to add in things that might be hyper-specific to them, or it wasn't included, but they still feel like it should be on that. And there have actually been some suggestions from past players that I have integrated into the regular lines and veils. At the very top of the sheet, I have a little welcome that says, these are the hard lines for my channel, period. You're not even going to see them below because I do not want you to be racist, homophobic, sexist, just anything. And I physically say it out loud, anything that's going to be like, why are we doing this? I invite people to my tables that I think are good people and that wouldn't engage in that anyway. But as the person who is producing and putting my name on it, I still physically like to say it out loud because God forbid someone say, well, Jess didn't say that I couldn't be homophobic, so I guess I'm gonna say the F slur a bunch of times. I like to just stop that and make sure that nobody is going to be icky at all, because I will embarrass you on the internet and then it will be recorded for all to see. And I don't think anybody wants that to happen.
No. Nobody wants that.
No.
If you want to endure that, you got to pay for that. All right? That's a weird kink, and we get paid for doing weird kink shit, okay?
On the second page of my lines and veils sheet, there's a section for romance that I ask everyone to fill out, even if they don't want romance, just so we're all on the same page. And then I even have kind of a housekeeping area where I tell folks that it's okay to curse. I tell folks that if we were, and I do follow up in the session 0. I like to ask the question of, if we were making a movie or a TV show together, I personally like to teeter between PG-13 and R rating. It's teetering for, depictions of violence and cursing, not necessarily sexual content. I don't really think we need to get into that. That's typically just a straight old fade to black. But just like housekeeping things that are typically questions that come up. I know that some people are, auditory learners. Some people like to see it visually. And so it's repeated in session 0, but in case they would like to read it at some point, I also have it there. I like to talk with the tables about what kind of X card they want to use, whether it's, making an X with their fingers, with their arms, whether it's putting an X into chat. A really interesting one was someone brought up once that sometimes they can get carried away in a conversation, and if it's derailing things, I guess this isn't the X card, but they ask people to kind of do this, like, oh, you're running away from the conversation at hand, or like making an allusion to like a bunny escaping, to say, okay, it's time to get back on track because we have about 3 hours to wrap this adventure in total. Sometimes folks like to use the O and other things. Some people like the red, yellow, green, and so it really depends on the table and what everyone is comfortable with. But making sure on the day of that we're all aware of what it needs to be. Another thing that I like to use, I guess I don't know if it's a tool necessarily, or if it's just like we're all humans and I want everyone to feel comfortable. I tell people the most important thing that you take away, besides like the game that we're playing from session 0, is that for any reason, if you can't make it to the game between the session 0 and the game, that's okay. Just let me know and we will either replace you if we can, or we'll go on without you. But you're a real life human being. Your real life is more important than being a silly little guy on the internet. We can always do that at a later point. But if you have an emergency or if you're sick, nobody's going to be mad. And that goes for the day of as well. I've had people in the middle of a game say, oh my God, I need to do something for my baby, or something has come up and I need to tend to my real life. We go to the BRB screen, we get you out of VDO Ninja, you go on with your life, we continue playing, we check in with you afterwards. I know some people just like grit their teeth and go through it, and that is okay if that's what they want to do, but that's not what they have to do. And so I really like to hammer that in, that like, we really are human beings and shit happens and that's okay. So again, not necessarily a tool, but like a good reminder. So those are just like some of the things.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah, we're all humans. If you're an alien, I got nothing for you, but we're all humans here. So, yeah. So what's next for charity TRPGs?
That is a great question. I was silly and forgot to ask you when this is going to come out.
March 23rd. Sorry, I forgot to inform you. Hi, March 23rd. Welcome. We'll edit this out.
Okay, so let's see. What's coming next for charity TRPGs? That would be my birthday charity stream. I am doing some traveling actually in April that I'm excited for, but also can't talk about right now. So I don't know when those streams are going to be happening. Usually it would happen either the week leading up to my birthday, or it would happen the week before or the weekend after my birthday, just because the weekend of my birthday now I have specifically reserved for me, and I don't do charity streams on them because I've done that in the past and it was a lot, and I was like, I didn't get to relax and enjoy my birthday. And so I need to like look at my schedule, but I believe I have decided that it's going to be Trans Lifeline that will be supporting whenever I do my birthday streams. I like to plan out a year ahead. I keep some like flexibility if a natural disaster happens, or if there is something that really, really needs support immediately and I don't feel like is being met in the way I think it should. So I do keep flexibility, but I like to schedule out just a year in advance because then I know the plan and we're not, rinsing and repeating and coming up into the problems that I had when I was first starting. So I am looking forward to whatever streams those will be, whatever games they will be. And then in May, I am going to be doing a big TTRPG charity stream team building event. Well, not team building event. I guess I'll build the team, but that will be for Doctors Without Borders, and it should be a really fun time with a lot of really interesting TTRPGs that are being played. So, and then as always, I will be doing something every month, so stay tuned.
I was about to say, what's next for you? Because you are not just the things that you put on.
Yeah, what's next for me? I will be running at the time of this. I can currently run 3 whole minutes. I say this because I didn't tear. Well, I guess I did. I sprained my ankle in July of 2025 and I tore like my outside lateral ligament that stabilizes your foot. And I had to have surgery in October of 2025, which is why no one saw me at PAX U. It was so sad. I was on my butt, missing you all. But by the time this episode comes out, I bet that I will be able to run a whole fucking mile. And that is something that I am just frothing at the mouth for. I literally cannot wait.
I wish I could just walk a mile. I have a bilateral herniated disc in my back that needs to get fixed eventually. It's gonna take a while. But yeah, no, walking a mile is just like... So I am proud of you running a mile because it's like, I wish I could just walk.
On my calendar right now, March 23rd.
Do it.
I'm going to do it, and I'm also sending you health and healing vibes.
Thank you.
Does not sound ideal.
I just need you to yell at the VA. It took them, so I also got I also got surgery in October, but it wasn't for anything leg related. I yeeted my uterus. I went yeet. And yeah, that was a 10-year process of getting them to be like, yeah, okay, fine. And then come to find out, tomatoes, everything that I was complaining about was justified. I'm not going to get into explicit detail, but let's just say it was not good in there. It was not good. So, yeah. Hopefully it's not another 10 years to get my back fixed. So, I'm on the journey. We're doing physical therapy. As this is probably coming out, hopefully I'm in physical therapy again. But this is the part of the podcast where I say plug your shit. Tell the people where to find you, where to find charity TTRPGs and all that.
Yeah, like I said at the top of the episode, you can find me all over the internet at Just the Human, just with one S. You can find charity TTRPGs some places on the internet. You can find it on Blue Sky. You can find it on Substack. It's CHARITTRPGs. It's like if you took the first part of charity and then TTRPGs and put them together. I don't know, if you like the work that I do, I would say please either consider donating to the charity of the month that I am supporting, or consider supporting me. I prefer you do the first one, but if you're like, I have so much money and I'm just like looking to spend it, feel free to spread it around. But if you like being told good morning in weirdly specific ways, I do that on Blue Sky and Threads. I sometimes put a video out on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Instagram. I'm also incredibly fucking lazy, and doing that in multiple places kind of fucking sucks. So there's that. If you want to see the TTRPG charity streams that I do, consider subscribing for free to my YouTube. I also do it on Twitch, but I care a lot less about Twitch than I do about YouTube. I'm also on Facebook. They said you have enough followers that we'll give you some money for it. And I said, all right, I guess. I was keeping it anyway for old family members to keep in touch so they can see what I'm doing, and now they definitely know what I'm fucking doing. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's the places that you can find me all over the internet. Sometimes people describe me as wholesomely horny on the internet, so I guess you'll find out if you go there.
There you go. You can find all of Jess's links down below in the show notes. Speaking of finding people on the internet, you can find me everywhere on the internet at Shelly Von Miller, to include Patreon, where you can, if you've got a lot of money and you want to support a creative who's a disabled veteran, hey, at $7 a month, you can get whatever flavor of content you want. Or at $25 a month, you can have it all. Or if you're, you don't have any money, you can also subscribe for free. And you get a monthly newsletter, early access to the podcast, and so much more. But if you want the paid tier, we're about to go record one of the exclusive pieces of content for that. Outside of that, I love you guys very much, and I will see you on the internet. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning.